Good morning, it's February 3rd, and this is To My Liberal Friends. Rahm Emanuel is a Democratic politician who's been around for a long time, and he's seen the ups and downs of politics, particularly how they apply to his own party. He was a member of Congress from Chicago from 2003 to 2009. He was the White House Chief of Staff under Barack Obama for 2 years from 2009 to 11, and then served as the mayor of Chicago for 8 years from 2011 to 2019. He recently served as the ambassador to Japan under the Biden administration. I bring him up because he's seen the highs and lows of the Democratic Party. He worked in the Clinton administration as a senior advisor to the president for policy and strategy. Rahm Emanuel has seen and done just about everything when it comes to politics, and because of that, he has a unique perspective on the problems besetting Democrats today. In yesterday's Washington Post, Mr. Emanuel penned an opinion piece that outlined the problems facing today's Democratic Party, and he offers some advice on how to get better, but there's no guarantee that those who control the party today will either listen or heed his advice. We hear a lot about the woke policies of the Democrats and how the voting public has rebelled against what Democrats are offering. Mr. Emanuel points out, correctly, in 2020, Democrats constituted 37% of the electorate as opposed to 36% for Republicans. Now that's a real close margin, but it was enough for a closely divided political campaign to deliver victories. But in 2024, those numbers have changed, with the Republicans outnumbering Democrats by 35% to 31%. What that means is 1% fewer voters are now identifying with Republicans, but Democrats dropped a whopping 6%. Taking a look at those numbers, it also means that in 2024, 73% of voters identified with one of the parties, and by 2024, that number dropped to 66%. I would have to assume that the majority of those no longer identifying with either party would be considered independents. And that means the competition for independent voters, a growing bloc, has become key in any political race. In 24, the vote was evenly split among independents between Harris and Trump, but in the key battleground states, it decidedly shifted to Trump, and that was a key to his victory. Trump won the independent vote in Arizona, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Georgia. He and Harris broke even in Nevada, and Harris won by slim margins the independent vote in Michigan and Wisconsin. But underneath all those numbers, the fact that most independents view themselves as moderates in today's political spectrum. Looking closely at the numbers, you find the following. Among Democrats, 6% say they're conservative, 43% moderate, and 51% liberal. Among Republicans, 67% say they're conservative, 30% moderate, and 3% view themselves as liberals. But independent voters, the key bloc, 27% say they're conservative, 54% say they're moderate, and only 19% of them view themselves as liberal. And those numbers tell you why the Democrats lost in 2024. And going back to Rahm Emanuel, it appears he's looked at these numbers as well. He believes that the woke policies of the left wing of the Democratic Party have dominated the party and in effect driven voters, particularly independents, away from voting for Democrats. Quoting Rahm Emanuel, he writes, quote, Americans again believe that liberal activists define the Democratic agenda even more rigidly than the conservative base dominates the GOP. Americans who identify as strong Republicans are about 20 percentage points more conservative than the median voter on issues including immigration and affirmative action. But strong Democrats are sometimes nearly 40 points more liberal or even further out of step, end quote. For those reasons, Democrats have moved on kitchen table issues that traditionally dominated family discussions to ones that are out of touch. I'm talking about DEI, sexual identity, illegal immigration. Remember when Biden used that term in the State of the Union and was roundly criticized with those of his own party, and crime in the country. They kept wanting to push their agenda at the public, and it became apparent that the voters weren't buying what they were selling. They kept telling the voters that the economy was good when even the most ardent Democrat could see what inflation and prices of things like groceries had done to their cost of living. They kept telling the public that the border was secure when anyone could see it was not. Having spent the majority of my professional life in Washington, D.C., I can tell you that moving away from these divisive issues will be very difficult for Democrats. The strength of the Democratic Party lies in urban areas, where the population is decidedly more liberal on just about any issue you can list. The Democratic Party today has become one of liberal white elites and African American voters. And even African American voters, particularly young black men, are slowly moving away from what the Democratic Party is pushing. The Hispanic voters moved even faster in the last election. And if you think that Democrats are learning any lessons, then you'd only have to watch the leadership elections for the Democratic National Committee. They allowed the far-left candidates to win and even reminded those voters that their rules require an equal number of male and female members, and since there are 5, they would have them vote for a non-binary member to be the 5th, because one gender can't have a majority. Forget getting the best people possible to lead the party out of the wilderness. Just follow these woke patterns of the past and keep right on losing. This has been To My Liberal Friends. Thanks for listening.